Ducati's new generation Panigale V2 is a breath of fresh air. It's light, agile, easy to ride and safe, thanks to chassis and electronics know-how borrowed from their fiery Panigale V4. It's stable, has an unquenchable lust for corner speed, hits apexes like a pinball and dishes out tricep-busting stopping power. Some may say 118 brake horsepower isn't enough, but in reality its new V-twin engine produces just the right amount to enjoy on the road or track. It's every inch a proper Ducati in the way it handles and stops, but it's one that doesn't try and rip your face off. Its high bars, reduced engine heat and all-round specialness should make it a superb road bike, too, although at 17 grand, only the well-heeled need apply. Ducati have to be congratulated for breathing new life into the Supersport class, although Yamaha might have something to say about that when the new R9 is released next month. Ducati reckons the Panigale V2 S can lap a track just as fast as the older Ducati Panigale V2, despite being a whopping 35 brake horsepower down. It's easy to see why. The old was always a sweet handler, but the new V2 takes things to a different level. It's 17 kilograms lighter and more agile with friendlier power and a racy chassis that digs in the harder you push it. Riding it fast is easy and the antidote to the fire-breathing, modern-day superbike that wants to take you for a ride, and punch you in the ribs along the way. Riding on Pirelli racing slicks, rather than the standard Diablo Rosso for tires, at its launch on the Sevilla circuit, we're blessed with more grip than power and the traction control is never called into play. But the electronics still prove their worth with a silky anti-wheelie system and foolproof cornering ABS. The quick shifter and auto blipper work superbly. We changed the gear pattern to race shift, although there were a few missed gears if we tried to change up too quickly. We also set the new color dash to track mode, which highlights revs, gear position, lap times and rider aid tabs that flash when being called into action. It's every inch a track bike, from the accuracy of the steering, the quality of its suspension and insatiable hunger for corner speed. Braking performance and stability are impressive and is the only part of the V2's makeup that moves away from being soft and cuddly. You'll need all your strength and a little bit more to use them to the full. In terms of sheer enjoyment, the new Panigale V2 hits the spot. It won't lap a track as fast as a superbike and you'll still have to beware of their closing speed on long straights at a track day, but the reward comes from being able to ride the Ducati close to its limit. We breezed through 6 sessions at its launch on the Sevilla circuit in southern Spain and barely break a sweat. Compare that to the Panigale V4 we rode at its Vallelunga launch in 2024, by the end it felt like we'd done 12 rounds with Tyson, both Mike and Fury. Unlike an old-school Supersport race rep, you won't need to double yourself in half to squeeze on the new Panigale V2. The riding position is sporty and the pegs never graze the tarmac, even on slicks, but legroom is generous, even for tall riders. Raised, widely spaced clip-ons, 60 mm higher than the old V2s, give you plenty of room to move around and are kinder to your wrists. In fact, Ducati says its MotoGP bike's bars are much higher than you'd expect, just so the riders can brace themselves against the huge braking forces. And when some of them use Panigale V4 S as training bikes they complain the bars are too low. We didn't get the chance to test the V2 on the road, but it promises to be even more impressive and perhaps the Supersport 950 Ducati should have built in the first place. It mixes easy performance with fun, a not too brutal riding position and Ducati say there's far less engine heat spilling out onto the rider than the old machine, too. Ducati's new V-twin makes 118 brake horsepower, which might not get the hardened sports bike fan fizzing, especially in a world where superbikes broke the magic 200 brake horsepower mark years ago, but 118 brake horsepower shouldn't be sniffed at. It's precisely because it doesn't have insane amounts of power the Panigale V2 is so friendly. It might have more in common with the old 113 brake horsepower Supersport 950 on paper, but it's a genuine modern-day Supersport bike, from the way it carves through corners, darts to apexes and to the speed the new engine spins up. Designed as a new from-the-ground-up machine, rather than just sleeving down an existing superbike, Ducati have been able to make the Panigale V2 light and compact, to get the best out of its relatively modest power delivery. It does that beautifully. Acceleration in the first 3 gears on a bike weighing just 176 kilograms wet, no fuel, isn't what you'd call sluggish, and with its wheelie control turned off it'll loft a front wheel in the first 3 gears off the throttle. The V-twin loves to yell its brains out, but it oozes grunt, too. Ducati says it produces 70% of its torque at 3000 rpm and 80% from 4000 rpm all the way to 11,000 rpm. The new motor has lost some of its traditional Ducatiness and doesn't growl and clatter like it used to. As we discovered with the new Multistrada V2, it has a more modern, refined and almost clinical feel and sound to it. The V-twin still roars through its airbox and race-inspired under-seat cans, though, but it's more subtle, which you can blame €5 for. On the flip side, the power delivery is friendly and controllable, thanks to the way the V-twin is mapped and the Superbike-derived electronic rider aids that lurk within. It's too early to say how durable Ducati's new V-twin engine is going to be, but its chassis parts and electronics are tried, tested and reliable. The Panigale V2 is beautifully built with fastidious attention to detail, deep paint finishes and top-notch chassis parts and electronics, as well it should be for 17 grand. You may think that's a lot for a 118 brake horsepower sports bike, but Ducati argue you're paying for the performance and build quality, more than outright power. With the exception if the MV Agusta F3 800 it's more expensive than its traditional Supersport rivals, including the new 12,250-pound Yamaha R9. The high-spec V2 S costs £2,000 more than the standard model and comes with Öhlins, forks, shock, lightweight battery and single seat. IMU-controlled electronic rider aids include lean-sensitive traction, wheelie and engine brake and control, an up/down quick shifter, 3-stage ABS and 4 riding modes, race, sport, road, wet. A pit lane speed limiter and launch control are available as accessories. A new 5 inches color TFT dash has a 16:9 aspect ratio and 3 display modes, Road, Road Pro and Track, highlighting the relevant information you need. Road-friendly accessories including cruise control, turn-by-turn navigation, tire pressure monitors and a USB charging port. There's also a time attack accessory pack that increases power to 124 brake horsepower and reduces weight to 169 kilograms wet, no fuel. It costs £5,005.80 and includes a full Terminioni race exhaust, Öhlins steering damper, adjustable billet aluminium rear sets, lower clip-ons, blanking plates for the mirrors and number plate and engine cover protectors. Ducati's MotoGP royalty Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez are about to take delivery of their Panigale V2 S, which they'll use to train on in 2025, adorned with these goodies.